I smoothed the silk blouse over my shoulders and glanced out the floor-to-ceiling window of my corner office. The city stretched below me, a blur of late-morning traffic and autumn sunlight bouncing off glass towers. Everything about this place screamed success: polished wood, muted leather, soft instrumental music. But success had always felt like a mask. Some days I wondered if anyone would ever see the real me. My phone buzzed on the desk, vibrating against the marble. A message from my mother. I hesitated, the familiar tightness rising in my chest. She never sent texts without reason, and the words she typed carried weight, judgment disguised as concern. My thumb hovered over the screen. One part of me wanted to delete it immediately, the other part, the part that never truly let go of old wounds, wanted to read it, to remember. Because some memories never fade. I remembered the morning when Dad smirked, casually dismissing my need for surgery. "Your brother's graduation is more important than your little procedure," he said, leaning back in his chair, as if my pain were invisible. I was 18, trembling, clutching the paperwork for a surgery that could change my life. I had no voice then, but I do now. And for the first time in years, I felt a flicker of curiosity, almost amusement, at what would happen if they saw the woman I had become. The phone buzzed again. I answered. I was 18, sitting on the edge of my childhood bed, the crumpled hospital paperwork clutched in my hands. The morning sunlight poured through the blinds, casting stripes across the faded pink comforter I had outgrown years ago. My fingers shook, pressing against the thin paper as if sheer willpower could make everything okay. Dad's voice drifted from the kitchen, laughing at something my brother had said. "Hannah, don't be dramatic. Your brother's graduation is more important than your little procedure," he said, smirking. Like it was a joke. Like my pain was invisible. I bit my lips so hard it bled, swallowing the lump that formed in my throat. Mom didn't intervene. She just shook her head, her lips pressed together, the kind of silence that said more than any words could. My brother, oblivious, bounced into the room with his cap and gown in hand, chattering about the ceremony, the photographer, the celebration, all while I sat frozen, wondering why my life suddenly felt so small, so insignificant. I remembered the sharp ache of injustice, the burning embarrassment. My hands trembled so violently I almost dropped the paperwork. But then I felt a small, warm weight on my shoulder. It was Grandma Ruth's charm bracelet, the one I had worn since I was 12. She had told me once, the day I got my first rejection from summer camp, "Hannah, sometimes the world will ignore your worth. That doesn't mean it isn't there. You carry your own power always." Her words echoed now, steady and unwavering. I looked at the bracelet, the tiny silver heart glinting in the sun, and something inside me shifted. I wasn't going to wait for them to see me. I wasn't going to beg for recognition or permission. That evening, while the house was alive with graduation excitement, I packed a small bag, just essentials, a few clothes, the charm bracelet, and wrote a note that said nothing but love. I left quietly, careful not to wake anyone, and stepped into a night filled with possibility, fear, and the thrill of claiming my own future. The door clicked shut behind me, and with every step down the street, I felt the weight of dismissal lift, replaced by a fragile, stubborn spark of independence. That night, I promised myself I would succeed. Not for them, not to prove a point, but for me. The first few months were harder than I had imagined. Sleeping on a fold-out couch in a small studio apartment, the hum of the city below my window both comforting and relentless, I felt the raw edge of independence. Every day was a battle, learning how to manage bills, finding work that would actually pay, and convincing myself that I wasn't a failure for leaving the only home I had ever known. Then came Claire Donovan, the first mentor I ever had outside of family. She was sharp, uncompromising, and somehow she saw potential in me I didn't even recognize myself. "Hannah, you're not just smart, you're relentless. Learn that skill, master it, and no one can ever dismiss you again," she said, sliding a stack of contracts across the table. I stared at them like they were treasures, the ink smelling faintly of opportunity. Long nights became routine. My fingers ached from typing, my eyes burned from reading, and doubt gnawed at me relentlessly. Some nights, I curled up on the couch, staring at the ceiling, asking myself if I'd made a mistake leaving, if I'd thrown away any chance at a normal life. But every time doubt whispered, I felt the bracelet on my wrist, the small silver heart, a quiet reminder of Grandma Ruth's words, "You carry your own power always." The first breakthrough came unexpectedly. A small client, one I almost didn't have the courage to meet, gave me my first real project. The sense of accomplishment was intoxicating. From there, one opportunity led to another. A first profitable sale, a feature in a minor trade magazine, a network that slowly began to expand. I celebrated quietly, never posting flashy updates, never calling home with my wins. My success was mine alone, a private rebellion against the memory of that smirked dismissal. I became a chameleon, blending in when I needed to, asserting myself when it mattered most. I learned to navigate rooms where I was underestimated, to outwork, outthink, and outlast. There were setbacks, of course, clients who doubted me, doors slammed in my face, moments when exhaustion and loneliness made me question every choice. But with each small victory, I felt myself transforming, not just into a successful professional, but into someone unafraid to define her own worth. By the end of those first 2 years, I had an apartment that smelled faintly of coffee and old books, a small collection of art that made the walls feel alive, and a network of people who respected me for my skill and integrity. And while my family remained in the dark, assuming I was scraping by, I held my private victories close, savoring them like precious jewels. They didn't need to know, not yet. I had become the woman they never expected. Strong, capable, independent. And in that quiet satisfaction, I realized something vital. Power is sweetest when it is quietly earned, and when it is finally revealed, it leaves no room for doubt. The knock at the door was polite but insistent. I set down my coffee cup, the aroma of dark roast mingling with the faint scent of rain on the city streets outside. My office was quiet, the kind of silence that made every sound sharper. The tap of rain on the window, the soft hum of the air conditioning, the echo of my own heartbeat. I opened the door to find them. My father, my mother, and my brother, all dressed in their Sunday best, faces a mixture of curiosity and subtle expectation. They had come, I knew, expecting to see the struggling, nervous girl they had dismissed years ago, the one who had left quietly with a small bag and a lot of dreams. I gestured toward the room. "Come in." They stepped inside cautiously, and I watched their eyes sweep across my office. Expensive art adorned the walls, each piece carefully selected. The shelves were lined with books and awards, glass and metal glinting in the warm light. My desk, polished oak, held a few personal touches, a photo of Grandma Ruth's charm bracelet, a small succulent, a sleek laptop glowing faintly. For a moment, they said nothing. I let them take it in, let the silence settle like dust, heavy and thick. Then I spoke. "You've been curious about what I've been doing all these years," I said calmly, letting the words roll off my tongue, deliberate and measured. "I didn't struggle as much as you thought. I didn't fail. I built something. On my own. From nothing." Dad's smirk faltered. He opened his mouth, then closed it. My mother's eyes widened, a flicker of recognition and shame crossing her face. My brother looked confused, unsure where to start. I gestured to my computer. "This company, I own it. We've doubled revenue each year for the last 3 years. I lead a team of talented people who trust me and respect me. That promotion you thought would never come for me? I didn't wait. I created my own opportunities. And this," I said, lifting the charm bracelet from the desk, "is what reminded me that my worth has always been mine to claim." They finally spoke, voices overlapping. "Hannah, we didn't know, we thought." I let them stumble, struggling to find words. "You thought wrong," I said softly but firmly. "And that's okay. You're seeing me now, the real me, the woman I've become despite being underestimated, dismissed, and overlooked." I watched their faces shift from disbelief to shock, then slowly to admiration, tinged with guilt. The smirk I had remembered so vividly for years was gone from my father's face, replaced by the faintest shadow of realization. My mother's posture softened, almost hesitant, as if afraid I might disappear again. My brother stared, mouth slightly open, seeing his older sister in a light he had never imagined. I didn't need to say more. The room spoke for itself. The success, the elegance, the quiet confidence I exuded, everything they had refused to recognize before was undeniable now. I finally smiled, a small, measured curve of triumph. "This is my life," I said. "I built it. Not for you. Not for anyone else. But now you get to see it." The air in the office felt heavier now, charged with the weight of realization. My family had finally seen the woman I had become, the life I had built, and the quiet power I carried. And yet, seeing them in awe wasn't enough. Years of dismissal and indifference had left their mark, not on me, but on the patterns they clung to. It was time to shift the balance entirely. I gestured toward the leather chairs near the window. "Sit," I said softly. My voice carried authority now, a calm that made even my father hesitate before lowering himself into the seat. "I've had time to think about all of this," I continued, "and I want to help. But things need to change. Not just for me to feel respected, but for you to grow, to stop repeating the same mistakes." I looked at my father first. "Dad, you've always prioritized appearances and achievements over people. If we're going to move forward, you need to learn to listen, really listen without judgment. I want you to attend one counseling session a week, just to learn how to communicate without dismissing someone's needs." He opened his mouth, but I held up a hand. "I know it's not easy, but if you're willing to try, I'll support you. If not, that's your choice, but the door will be closed for that part of your life." Then I turned to my mother. "Mom, I need you to stop enabling old patterns. You excused the unfairness, tried to smooth things over, and in doing so, allowed hurt to fester. I want you to take at least one step every month toward independence, a class, a project, anything that reminds you who you are outside of family duties." My brother shifted nervously. "And you," I said, meeting his eyes, "have to stop thinking the world revolves around you. It doesn't. You're bright, yes, but the world isn't a stage built for your victories alone. I want you to volunteer or take on a responsibility where success isn't guaranteed, something that teaches patience and humility." Silence fell again. Not uncomfortable, intentional. I wanted them to feel the weight of what I was offering. Compassion, yes. Forgiveness, yes. But not compliance with the old, toxic patterns. Finally, I leaned back, a small smile tugging at my lips. "You get to choose. You can either take these steps seriously and grow, or remain the people you were yesterday. Either way, I will remain the person I have always chosen to be, independent, accomplished, and unafraid to define my worth." Their expressions were a mixture of relief, fear, and awe. I could see the beginning of recognition in their eyes, that they had been given a chance, but it came with conditions. Growth wasn't optional. Respect wasn't optional. And for the first time in years, I felt no resentment, no lingering hurt. Just clarity, power, and the satisfaction of seeing the scales finally tilt in my favor. Weeks passed, and the change I had set in motion began to show, subtle but undeniable. My father attended his counseling sessions, awkward at first, but gradually learning to listen instead of dismiss. Mom enrolled in a writing workshop, a long-forgotten dream she had shelved years ago, and I could see the light of curiosity return to her eyes. My brother volunteered at a local youth center, stumbling through the tasks but learning the value of patience and humility. I watched from my corner office, sunlight streaming across my desk, and allowed myself a quiet smile. I had created not only a life of success, but also a space where growth was possible for those who wanted it. And for those who didn't, the door remained closed, a boundary I had never been able to assert in the past, but one I now enforced with gentle firmness. Sitting back, I lifted my grandmother's charm bracelet from the desk, feeling the smooth silver against my wrist. You carry your own power always. Those words had guided me through sleepless nights, through doubt, through the sting of dismissal. Now, they felt like a victory chant, a reminder that the strength I had always carried was mine alone to claim, and mine to wield. The office hummed softly around me, the city alive below. I sipped my coffee, noticing the faint scent of roasted beans and leather, and felt the satisfaction of a journey completed. Not the kind of journey that ends with applause or recognition, but the kind that leaves a person unshakable, unafraid, and at peace with herself. I glanced out the window once more, thinking of the 18-year-old girl who had left home carrying nothing but a charm bracelet and a quiet determination. She would be proud of the woman she became, not just the woman who built a successful career, but the woman who held her boundaries, forgave, and still extended the possibility of change to those who had once underestimated her. And in that moment, I whispered to myself, a soft, steady affirmation for the years ahead. I am enough. I have always been enough. It wasn't just a statement. It was a life I had earned, a legacy of resilience, and a voice finally unbroken, strong, independent, and unapologetically mine.